Hello there. Thank you for joining me for our Take 5 segment. This is where we take 5 minutes, usually on a Friday, and it is the 28th of October, and give you a bit of a preview of what we are going to be discussing and looking at as far as the scripture on the Sunday coming up. So the Sunday that we're referring to here is the 30th of October. We hope that you won't have a candy hangover, right? Because I believe on Friday is trick-or-treating and stuff around the town here in Martinsville. But we trust and hope that we can see you at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. If not, you can definitely follow us on YouTube through our Facebook channel. You can get to there and see our teaching. Well, we are actually coming to a conclusion of our teaching series on the parables of Jesus. And it's been quite a journey. There are 40 parables that we have recorded in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. The Gospel of John does not contain any parables. We didn't even really scratch the surface. We looked at a number of parables, but obviously we're not going to get to all of them. Stick around though. You know, if we're here for a number of years, we're probably going to get to several of them that were not able to get to. Well, what parable are we going to end on? Well, throughout the scripture, God would often use extreme methods to highlight an extreme message. For example, he would take somebody like Isaiah and he would say, okay, I need you to run around naked. And people are going to pay attention to that. We have another character in the Old Testament by the name of Hosea, where he actually instructs Hosea to marry a woman who was essentially a prostitute or adulteress. And he said, marry her to illustrate really the adultery of Israel. If you're familiar with the book of Ezekiel or the prophet Ezekiel, he was kind of a performance artist in many ways. And so he instructed Ezekiel to do a number of things to get people's attention, because oftentimes an extreme message people will tune out. And one of the things that he instructed Ezekiel to do, for example, is he instructed him to eat food cooked over dung. And so thankfully, I'm not going to be doing any of those things, but the reason why I share that is because Jesus, in the parable that we're going to look at in Luke chapter 16, Jesus uses a name. And he doesn't do this in any of his other parables. He'll use a title or a designation. He'll say, for example, the Good Samaritan, or he'll say a farmer went and sowed seed, or there was an owner of a field, right? Or there was someone who found a treasure in a field. Jesus never uses a proper name until the parable that we're going to look at here on Sunday. And the name that he uses is the name of Lazarus. And Lazarus was a common name. This is not the Lazarus that you may be familiar with, that Jesus raised from the dead, who had a couple sisters that followed Jesus around. This is the only place that this Lazarus is actually mentioned. And the context of this parable is a teaching on the reality of the existence of heaven and the existence of hell. And the reason why I believe that Jesus gave a name, and Jesus talks about this parable, that there was a rich man who really just simply lived for this life and was very comfortable and lived a life of leisure. He dies and he goes to what the scripture calls Hades. And then there's a beggar, a poor man who has really nothing on this earth to live for, and so therefore places his faith in God of the next life. And Jesus actually gives that person a name. It's the only place in the parables of Jesus where we actually see a proper name. And the reason why I believe Jesus does this is because when we add a name, and you probably know this as well, when we're talking in theory, sometimes we'll even say, let's put a name to the face, right? And so Jesus perhaps knew this person, Lazarus, and many of the people, perhaps as he was telling this parable, knew that there was a man named Lazarus that Jesus describes that probably passed away. And so Jesus most likely uses this situation to tell a parable and uses Lazarus as this illustration of someone who goes to heaven. And the reason why I believe Jesus goes to this, put a name to a face, is because of the topic. There is not more serious of a topic than the topic of your eternal destiny. And so Jesus puts a name to a face. So we hope that you will join us as we sort of examine this parable. We look at a difficult topic. I'm not going to lie to you. We're ending on a tough one. The reality of heaven and the reality of hell. And so we hope that you will join us on the 30th of October, our final teaching on the parables of Jesus. God bless, and have a great rest of your day.